What's going on, hockey fans, and welcome into the first ever episode of Kane's Crew. I told Christian that I was surprised that name wasn't taken, but we are your host for this thing, Dominick Crosetto, right here, and Mr. Christian Self. And why the hell should you listen to us, right? Did we play NHL hockey? No. But did we play college hockey? Also no. But we are some OG Carolina Hurricanes fans that have been around since the beginning. Christian, introduce yourself real quick and tell them why we are some of the best knowing Canes fans around.
So when it comes to North Carolina hockey, we were there from the beginning. We were there playing roller hockey before there was ever such thing as the Carolina Hurricanes, playing out in the asphalt bus area of our local elementary school. And then we find out that, Hartford Whalers are moving to North Carolina. We get the Carolina Hurricanes, and we are all in right from the get-go. We're following every game, every playoff game, and we're playing floor hockey while the Canes were in the playoffs in 2002, watching overtime games and watching them get to the finals against the Red Wings and living and dying with every single game of that series, ultimately dying to a incredibly stacked Red Wings team. But we were there from the get-go. We're as OG as it can get. And then, sure enough, we were fortunate enough. We were in college during the 05-06 run with Rod Brindamore as our captain. We were all college kids with like no money to our names, and we went to a couple of games the early part of that playoffs. And then when we found out that they're going to the finals, we knew we had to get tickets. Games one, games two are sold out like before you could even get tickets, and so we were either going to get game five or game seven, and we're scrounging money. I'm begging, borrow, pleading for money, and we decide to get game seven tickets. And sure enough, it goes to game seven. We're there in person. We get to see the cup getting lifted by our captain, Rod Brindamore. And so um, we are live die. We run red with Carolina Hurricanes hockey. So yeah, I mean, what more could you ask for, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And all of the important stuff there was there. But I do want to make mention we're doing all of this from Hickory, North Carolina. So we are the other side of the state, roughly 3 hours from Raleigh. We did get to take advantage of some nice free tickets most of the time to the Greensboro days. So, we had a little bit shorter of a drive. But all of that other fun stuff that was deep playoff runs all came in the Raleigh days. So we were making our way all the way across the state. I myself now in Chapel Hill. Christian, you are in Conway. You're technically in Conway, South Carolina, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
Conway, Myrtle Beach area. And so I'm making the 3 hour drives up and back to get to games. I can't get to as many as I would love to if I was living in the Raleigh area, but I'm planning on going to game three in this cap series that we're going to be talking about. So I'm super pumped.
Yeah. Speaking of that, we'll go ahead and bring up the first graphic of the night. Round two. Here we come. Capitals collision. I got to say this. When they say the history between these two teams, we'll get to that in just a second, but it feels shocking to me when they say that these two teams have only met in the postseason once. I would have just assumed it would have been more than that. I feel like with how many times we've played them over the years, it would have happened more than one time, but I guess that's factual, huh?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've been with the Caps, like we were Southeast Division rivals for a long time, and now we're playing the Metro. So we see them all the time, but it is strange that the fact that I was surprised by that as well, that we've only seen them one other time. Now we remember that very well. We remember that incredible Brock McGinn go ahead goal in overtime and in Game Seven, and what a game that was. But we also have plenty of bad memories of Ovechkin killing us through the regular season. So, yeah, this is going to be a great matchup. I'm super excited about it. But this is an interesting Caps team because I'll be honest, I was not thinking that I didn't even think they were going to make the playoffs this year, let alone winning, like having the best record in the Eastern Conference. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, no, I was a little surprised too. I mean, if you listen to, and I know a lot of us do, a lot of us hockey fans listen to the Spit and Chicklets podcast. A lot of them were kind of, I don't know if I'd say down, but I don't know if they were true believers in this Caps team before the season started. And Biz had not chosen them to do much. Witt was the same way. And Biz just came on this past week's episode, I believe it was, and says he's changing his pick. He had Carolina going to the Eastern Conference Finals when the playoffs, or right before the playoffs started. Now he's taking Washington in this series specifically. We'll get to our picks here in a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely surprising to see how good they were. I mean, I didn't think they'd be bad. I think they were coming in. I probably were. Are they a fringe playoff team? Although, right before the season, I had some questions about the Hurricanes themselves too. So I think both teams overperformed, really, if you ask me. But there was a lot of stuff that went on throughout the season for the Hurricanes specifically. But yeah, I mean, Ovi doesn't age. It feels like, right? I mean, the guy just has gotten better. I don't know if I don't know. He's still not top speed, maybe, but still a phenomenal player, one of the best in the league by far.
No, and an incredible season by him. At the beginning of the season, I was listening to lots of NHL radio, hearing all the hype, and the big question was, can he do it this season, or is it going to take two? And and if you guys remember the previous season, it looked like he was slowing down. It looked like he was getting older, aging. He was a lot slower on the ice. He's the older you get, the more potential for injuries. And I just thought that there was just no chance. And he was injured this year, and still the guy got over 40 goals. I mean, it's incredible. And he hits the record. Obviously, he passes Gretzky. And not only that, but they get the best record in the Eastern Conference. And it's not all Ovi. They have some other big pieces that started to come through for them. And I think maybe one of the biggest is Logan Thompson in goal was huge for them, shoring up their net minding, and they became just an all-around very good hockey team. Now, is Ovi the Ovi of when he was in his 20s? No, we all know he's different now. He's cherry picking goals. He's really stationary on the power play, but it works for him. Like
Yeah,
everybody knows where his office is at, and everybody knows if you want to stop it, stop it. But people can't stop it. And look, as a Hurricanes fan, we can't. We have a hard time stopping it. We just know how hard it is to stop that Ovechkin slap shot from the point.
yeah. I mean, when he got injured earlier this year, it wasn't just some minor thing, right? He had a broken freaking leg, and the guy
Yeah, yeah,
rebounds just as fast as a young 20-year-old. It seems like comes back, doesn't look any worse for the wear, and does the goal scoring mark that people thought may never be reached after their leg was broken, right? So just phenomenal stuff and crazy to see him still playing at this level. I mean, I can only think of one other player that even comes to mind with the longevity aspect, and that's Yarmer Yager and what he's been able to do. And is he still playing overseas, or he finally called a career?
yeah. No, I think no, bro, I think he's still playing. I mean, well, he's part owner of that team, right? So he's got to keep getting out there to make sure fans are coming to the seats. So I mean, the
Good
only
point.
other player I would also put up there, and because they kind of came into the league at the same time as Sidney Crosby, and Crosby is also an incredible player that's still getting it done at an older age. Obviously, his team though is just you know that's another interesting because the Caps they retooled. The Penguins have been trying to retool for the longest time, and it's just not been working for them, and they missed the playoffs again this year. We're not
Yeah,
going to get into the Penguins, but yeah, but for the Caps though, that retool has worked out great for them. Protus has been huge for them. Michael has been another great find for them. So this is going to be a very, very interesting matchup that we're going to get into.
yeah, absolutely. And before we get into that, specifically, what we'll do here is talk about the overall picture because we waited to record this until the Jets Blues went final. So we had the full look at round two coming up. That one was, we were just talking about it, Christian, a great game that I don't know. I didn't see the ending coming, right? Like they go down and what? The first they scored 2 goals in the first period, wasn't it? It was 2-0 in the first pretty quickly for the Blues.
It's 2-0 in the first. Yep, yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah. And then they tied it
Yeah,
with
it
what,
was 2-0,
1.6?
and then so it went up 3-1. The Blues pulled ahead, and I thought, okay, that's it. And then they scored two quick goals. They pulled the goalie within like the last 2 to 3 minutes, and then scored the very final goal with like 1.6 seconds left on the clock, I want to say.
Yeah, that
Yeah, it
was
was insane. It was
crazy.
an incredible game.
It absolutely was, man. That was, I mean, for the first ever Game 7 in Winnipeg, that's a precedent that will not be beat anytime soon, I don't think. The
And what a
latest,
way
yeah, go ahead.
just gonna say, what a way to end the first round of that series. That was the very final game. Game
Yep.
seven goes to double overtime on a last minute pulled goalie clutch goal with 1 second left, and then you get the crowd going nuts when they finally win there in double overtime. It was an incredible game, incredible drama.
Yeah, the latest goal in Game 7 history, which isn't really all that surprising. So, especially with it not actually being ended, right? Like latest goal in Game 7 history, it doesn't even win it. It just gives you a chance to win it in overtime. I thought there might be gas going into OT with everything they gave at the end, and the Blues would come out maybe a little more refreshed on the offensive side, but this is great back and forth stuff even in the OT. So the Dallas one will go right below that next. I mean, freaking Miko Rantanen doesn't do that one time for us, but he takes over the game for Dallas and wins it in Game 7, huh?
So I don't know how much time we're gonna have to get into Miko on this particular episode. We definitely are gonna have future episodes to talk about Miko, but I mean I have to hand it to him. The dude took over in that game seven. Incredible performance by him. It killed my bracket. I not only did I have the Avalanche going to the finals, I had them winning the whole thing. So the fact that they're out in the first round, but that's also the interesting thing about how this current playoff setting lined up because, and I heard this argument made, and I would agree with this. You had arguably the two best teams in the West facing off in the first round, Dallas and Colorado, and then you had arguably the two best teams in the East facing off with Florida and Tampa. Now, you might have a little bit more arguments in terms of that because neither of those teams had the best records in the East, but talent-wise, it's I mean, and also just record, like those two teams have been juggernauts in the playoffs for a long time. So the way I saw it, I saw the winner of those two series were going to be the Stanley Cup Finals matchups. And me stupidly, I thought it was going to be Colorado Tampa meeting in the finals, but it's looking like at the very least out of those matchups, it was Florida and Dallas. So are those teams going to meet in the finals? We'll see. I know that Canes fans really, and me personally, I want to see our Canes get there, but Florida is looking like a house right now. They are looking really strong, especially with Marchand being on that roster, and Dallas is looking resilient, man. I don't even think that they're the better team. Like talent wise, I do not think they're the better team, but they came through when it mattered most, and Mikko Rantanen came through for them.
Yeah, I would actually agree with that last statement right there. I do not think they were more talented than Colorado, but like you said, they turned it on the right time at the right game. So yeah, Dallas moves on. I, I'll be honest, I think I favored Dallas heavily over the Jets after what struggles I saw them there with Hellebuck not playing great. I mean, they gave everything they had just to beat the Blues here. I'd be surprised if the Jets came out on top against Dallas in this next round. I don't know what your thoughts are on that one.
Well, I mean, that's going to be the biggest storyline of that matchup is Connor Hellebuck. Like, he was not good. I mean, everybody, I think even Jets fans would agree he was just not good enough in that first round, and yet somehow they squeaked through. They fended off a resilient Blues team that was really on a heater towards the end of that season. They won like an insane amount of games in a row at home,
Yep.
and Connor was just not looking good. I mean, he's probably going to be the Vezina Trophy winner, and he's looking like just another guy for them. So we'll see. Like, and they're running into. I mean, uh, can you better than Otter? Like, he's so good, and that goalie matchup is really, I think, going to determine that series. And like, I would agree with you. The way that Connor was looking that first round, it's hard not to pick Dallas in this one.
Yeah. I think I'm kind of feeling the same way in this next one too. Vegas beats Minnesota, a little closer than it probably should have been, right? I think a lot of people thought Vegas may get the gentleman's sweep there, or maybe even sweep straight away. Minnesota put up one hell of a fight as long as you have Kiprusoff on your. I mean, not Kiprusoff. That's the old goalie's name. What's what's the forward over there? Kaprizov. That's it. I
Oh
was
yeah,
close.
yeah,
Yeah, Kaprizov. There we go. It was just close to their old. I don't even know if he played for Minnesota, but anyways, yeah. So Edmonton though is kind of the same way, right? I mean, I picked the Kings to come out of that series. It looked great. They were up 2-0 in games, and then it looked like they could have and should have had game 3. I think it was. Didn't that one go to overtime? And they Oilers just got by 1. Uh, but then, I mean, it just went the complete other way after that. All the momentum shifted to Edmonton, and they won that 4-2. But I'm going into this next round with Vegas thinking they should be the favorites over Edmonton as well. I don't know what you think on that one before we move over to the East.
yeah. That Kings series was interesting because those after those first two games, it was looking like okay, Edmonton's outclassed here. The Kings are the new beasts of the West, and then all of a sudden, game 3 happens and the series gets flipped. And I got to say, I think that that the Kings were outcoached in that series. Edmonton just showed their experience in the playoffs and were able to take that series. So that was one that I did predict. I picked the Knights versus the Oilers in the second round. I think it's going to be an incredible matchup. I could see this one going 7 games, but I did pick the Knights actually to beat the Oilers, so that's what I'm going to stick with. And so right now I'm thinking we might have a Dallas Stars versus Vegas Golden Knights Western Conference Finals, which is going to be incredible. I would love to see that happen. But either way, it's going to be a great matchup there. And yeah, so I'm happy to
Yeah.
get to the East if you want.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's one we might see. I had Vegas going all the way to the final, so I will be fine with that pick. I won't be disappointed if Edmonton makes it because they're a fun team to watch because of what they can do
Hmm.
offensively. But as we know, defense and goaltending hasn't been the greatest over the years. Defense has improved, goaltending still very much in question. Looks like Pickard is going to be the guy moving forward, though, after that series. The one that was a little bit of a surprise because it felt like when it went bad, was it going to go all the way bad, was the Toronto series, right? They're up early, looks like they're in control, going to win this series. Comes game 5, they can't finish it, right? So now they got to go and play Ottawa back at their place. Obviously, they get the victory and win 4-2 there. But did you have any concern that Toronto could just epically fall apart yet again as they've done in the past?
Was there anybody who didn't have concern? Everybody was concerned. Maple Leafs fans were definitely concerned. Everybody was concerned. I mean, you have them going up 3-0, and you're thinking, okay, let's see if they can get the one that actually matters. And that's always been their biggest issue. Can they get the series clinching game? And you see all the stats of how bad they are in these series clinching games where their stars don't show up and where the goaltending doesn't happen. And sure enough, Ottawa rattles off 2 straight wins. You're thinking, oh my gosh, here we go. They're going to choke it once again. And yet they didn't. They pulled through, and they get into the second round again. So congratulations to the Maple Leafs. I did pick the Leafs and originally to win that series. I just felt like they got a great first round matchup in the fact that you have a young Ottawa team that does not have playoff experience, and the Leafs were battle tested. And I think that's eventually what showed up is that the Senators just they weren't there long enough. They just didn't have that experience, and I think that the Leafs eventually got the goals that mattered and showed their class in that win in Game 6. So they pull through. They're going to be facing the Florida Panthers, and I gotta say, I would imagine most of the money is going to be on the Panthers in this one because I did have the Bolts, the Lightning coming through, but I was of the opinion, and we talked about this earlier. I thought the winner of that matchup is going to go to the Eastern Conference Finals, and the Panthers are just looking like a house. They're looking very strong. Marchand gives them another dimension. Just another guy who can not only just agitate the other team, but he can score goals too. He's electric, and I just don't think that Toronto is going to be able to beat them. So I've got Florida beating Toronto in this matchup.
Yeah, I easily have Florida beating Toronto in this matchup too. Like it wouldn't surprise me if it was a short series even. I don't think it would be a sweep. I think Toronto has enough talent to win at least one, but it wouldn't shock me at all to see Florida come through with another 4-1 series victory. because, like you said, I think they are going to be that dominant. Playoff Bob is back in the net, so it's going to be hard to beat him, and we'll see where that one goes. But yeah, I had Florida. Winning that one. Now I also had the Kings beating the Oilers, so there you go for my expertise there. But it looked pretty good after those first two games for the Kings. We will go a little bit more specifically through these next two because those are the teams we're going to talk about even more here in a second. So we had the Canes taking out the Devils 4-1 in their first round series. It was a talent disparity, right, Christian? I mean, it wasn't. I guess I should say it was obvious to me when you watch the game that there was no way the Devils were going to be able to hang with the Canes long term in a long type of series, and obviously it didn't go that long, right? 4-1. But I don't know. What are your thoughts? You don't have to go in through each game, but you can just talk about what your thoughts were by the eye test of watching that one.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, look, they didn't have Jack Hughes, and that's huge. That's their best player. That would be like us going to that series without Sebastian Aho, and that's a completely different series. We don't have Aho in that series because he was great in that series. So, um, not only did they not have Jack Hughes, but then they lost Luke Hughes early on in that series. He gets hurt and just doesn't is not able to come back. So you've lost their arguably their best forward and their best defenseman early on or at the beginning of that series. So they were just a beat up team, and I do think that if they were completely healthy, this would be a different looking series. You could argue it would maybe go 7 games, but over the course of that series, I think it was evident that the Hurricanes were just a better, deeper team. They're battle tested. They have experience in the playoffs. They have pieces that all fit together, and they have guys that know how to perform in the playoffs that have experience there. And I think it especially showed through in that game 5 when they're going into that third period. They finally they're down early in period the first period of that game 5. It's looking like, oh gosh, what's happening here? Kochekov is in net. He's not looking good. The defense is shaky. They score 3 straight goals. Then the second period, there it's just a completely different story. 3 straight goals within just a matter of minutes ties the game, and then that third period happens. It's I think it's what at that point 4-4 coming into the third
Yep.
period, and no goals are scored. But it's just at that point it's just sheer domination by the Hurricanes, and then you go into overtime and it's even more domination. I like the Devils barely had the puck in that first overtime in game 5. And when they did have the puck, they had it for like 2 seconds on their stick and they were just flipping it out. I mean, that whole overtime period was just them flipping it out, trying to catch a breath. And then the
Yeah.
Hurricanes just coming back into their end and just relentlessly on the puck, relentlessly forechecking. So at that point, I think the talent differential was just evident. They were just two different teams there. It was just a beat up, uh, inexperienced Devils team facing a hungry, much more experienced, talented Hurricanes team, and yeah, they get the penalty there and second overtime. Thank you to KK using your face to get us that 4 minute penalty, which we need. We needed all 4 minutes of that penalty.
Yep.
We score that goal. Aho comes in clutch, and the better team won. And again,
Yeah.
we could come back and rehash this. If the Devils were healthy, would this be a different series? It would. Would they win it? I don't know. I still think the Hurricanes are a better team, but at the end of the day, they just didn't have the pieces that the Hurricanes did, and the Hurricanes are moving on.
Yeah, definitely are. I mentioned to somebody else, I said, if you lose to the Devils, you should be embarrassed. If this goes 6, you can kind of get away with that. If this goes 7, you need to be very concerned that you're not beating a team like this in the first round. Again, like you said, if New Jersey had come in full strength, all their players, then you look at it differently. But with the team that they had on the ice, you should have wiped the floor with them. They essentially kind of did that. I mean, they had some troubled times, but they got through them. And ultimately just took 5 games to
Mhm.
get rid of them. Feisty, though, I mean, they were really full. Markstrom really came through in that last game. I mean, he did not want to go down. So great performance by him to kind of keep them in it. Speaking of great performances, Washington came through with quite a few of them against the Canadians in their first round matchup. I don't know how much of this one did you get to watch, Christian? I mean, you lay eyes on this a lot.
Uh, to be honest with you, I did not. This is probably the one series that I didn't watch as much of. I don't know if that's because the games are going on around the same time that the Hurricanes games were or not, but I caught the highlights. Ovi, again, looking like he found the fountain of youth, scoring goals, and um, this was if I'm not mistaken, I think there were a lot of people picking the Canadians to win this. I think there were a lot of Capitals doubters out there. I, for one, actually did think that the Capitals would win this series. I think, again, Canadians are coming into this without any playoff experience. They're a young team, not experienced in the playoffs, and I think that really does matter. And you've got a team led by veterans, namely Ovi, with the Capitals, and I thought that was going to be the difference. I did think the Canadians were going to give the Caps a challenge, and they did a little bit, but not as much as maybe Canadians fans were hoping. So yeah, Capitals come through on this one, and actually a really strong, solid effort for them. I was thinking it was going to be a much closer game five, but Caps just
Yeah.
smothered the Canadiens, and the Canadiens looked defeated towards the end of that game.
Yeah, I think the thing that, and this will be an interesting aspect to talk about in the series coming up between the Caps and Canes, but I think Montreal brought a lot of, or maybe a lot more physicality than people had assumed that they would coming into the series with the Caps. So that was kind of the surprising part, maybe why those first two games were very close in Washington, even though the Caps got the better of them in both. Those were not easy fought victories. Those were hard fought right to the very end. And then you say, oh, wow, the Canadians won 6-3 in that game at home. Like you said, could game four or game five be a lot closer because they've shown that they can have a scoring output if they play some solid defense and get some solid goaltending. Obviously, that wasn't really the case, and the Caps turned it on offensively in those next two games to win it 5-2 and 4-1 to close that series out. But yeah, I was a little surprised of the feistiness of the Canadians. But like you said, they had a young team that, they weren't scared to lose, right? Because like you said, I think there were some people that maybe picked them as like the upset, maybe that kind of Blue Jackets versus Lightning type of upset in the first round many years ago. But I don't know. It didn't seem to be all that close to one of those types of series. So yeah, we'll have to
Well,
see.
from what I from what I did from what I did watch, Suzuki was great in that series, and Caulfield is just an incredible player. I think every team would want Caulfield on their team. But Slavkovsky is just still really young, and I don't, I just think that they need a little bit more firepower if they really want to compete for a Stanley Cup. I think they just need maybe one other really solid goal scorer on that team. Because really towards the end there, it just was apparent that they were really lacking in goal scoring.
Yeah.
But yeah, and also before we move on, I want to quickly go back to that Devils series because I want to touch on Dougie Hamilton. So if you're a Canes fan, you remember Dougie Hamilton was on our team for several years, and I still have flashbacks of him looking scared and avoiding hits in the playoffs. And like seeing him, and I forget which series it was, but it was just so apparent. Like he was scared. He was just getting bullied out there, and it was awful. He refused. He was a big body. He refuses to use it. And from that moment on, it's like this guy is just never going to be good enough to win in the playoffs. And we saw that in that Devils series. Like
Yeah.
the dude was invisible. Like he did have like maybe a couple plays like on the power play or whatever, but um, like in his own end, he's scared of the physicality. He's not able to use his body. And although he's great at moving the puck, like defensively, he's never been the most reliable defender. And so that's a win in my book. The fact that he's not on our team in the playoffs, and I hate it for you guys, Devils fans. Like he's going to get you points in the regular season, but when it comes playoff time, you cannot rely on Dougie Hamilton. And I think that was totally apparent in that Devils series.
I agree. I wasn't all that hurt when he left. And so now we see more reasonings why. So that brings us to round two between the Caps and Canes. Capital punishment a rivalry renewed here. And again, we're touching on this because we touched on it to start with. The playoff history includes only one round, one meeting ever back in 2019. Man, it feels like a year or two ago to me, but it was 2019. The Caps are coming off the Cup victory of 2018. And I don't know if they were a heavy favorite to win it again, but I don't think people would have been surprised for them to have been there. So this was a big time first round upset for the most part, for most people's thought processes in this 2019 round. Washington took the first two games at home. The Canes tied it with 2 games at then PNC Arena. Caps then won in dominant fashion, 6-0 at home in Game 5, which a lot of people thought, oh man, Game 6 might not be pretty. But Canes returned the favor, winning 5-2 at home in Game 6 before Game 7, the one for the record books, 3-3 tie in regulation, finally ends in 2 overtimes with Mr. Game 7 himself centering a puck to the net where Brock McGinn just straight up kind of bats it in real quick, right? I mean, I feel like most people there probably didn't even realize it was really in the net for a split second. I know I didn't. I saw him start celebrating. I'm like, what? He went in? So,
Yeah.
what a finish. So the playoff history is not large here. It's not a lot to go off of. But Christian, I mean, what do you remember about that? Like, what do you want to talk about that first round a long time ago?
Well, so Brock McGinn, I will always have a soft spot. That was, when you look back in terms of Hurricanes playoff lore, that game will just always be right there in my memory, along with some of the other incredible moments like the miracle up in Montreal
Yeah.
uh, and
Shock at the Rock.
UC Okinen's the shock of the rock. UC Okinen's last second goal. So I mean, anyway, it was an incredible goal. You've got Game 7 there, Mr. Game 7, doing what he does best, throwing a puck on the nets, which that's what you do in overtimes in the playoffs. You just get pucks on the net, and good things will happen. And Brock McGinn, and you talk about like everybody was shocked. He was the first person. He knew more than before anybody else knew that puck was in the net. He was the first person that
Yep.
celebrated. Everything just seemed delayed, and then just those Caps fans were just stunned, and it was an incredible moment. Man, I wish I could just bottle that moment and drink it to get me started each day, because that was such a fun game, such a great moment. Because the Hurricanes, they were I don't think maybe people don't remember, like, if I'm not mistaken, weren't the Caps the defending Cup champions, or maybe just they were
Yep.
two years removed? I can't exactly remember where it was, but
No,
they were like the heavy favorites.
They won in 2018. They were coming off the Cup victory into 2019. So yeah, they were looking to repeat.
Yeah, so they were the heavy favorites. We were the young, scrappy upstarts. We had Rod Brind'Amour, new coach, and just made the playoffs for the first time in forever. So we were not expected to do anything or go anywhere. And but magic can happen, and that's what we saw. And I will say, if this series goes to 7 games, which I could definitely see that happening, how much money would you pay to get Justin Williams suited up back on the ice? I don't care if he's standing around like Ovi. We got to get him back out there and do what he does best.
Yeah, I would do, or just get Brock McGinn to sound the siren in a Game 6, because obviously Game 7 would be in Washington. But yeah, anything to get the crowd going and crowd pumping for this one would be great. So with what you've said, I believe we know the answer to this. But historically, when you look back, it sounds like you're going to pick Brock McGinn in the goal. But we do also have to remember that fight between 2 Russian goal scorers that are not heavyweights, as Svechnikov and Ovechkin went at it on the ice. Obviously, Ovi getting the better of that sucker, and Svechnikov right in the face. Knocked him, I believe he was out for the rest of that series. Is that correct? Do you remember that part?
I think he was. Yeah, I think he was out there for the entire series, and he came back on the next one. Yeah.
Well, that was a fight not many people saw coming, and I know that they talked afterwards about how much he respects Ovi, and obviously, somebody he looks up to. So for him to get into a fight with him on ice, something I don't think we'll see this go around, but I'd pay to see it again. I mean, Svechnikov better get the better of him now with the age difference and Ovi being a little bit slower, maybe. But he's still laying the wood out there, so maybe don't take your chances with that. Because if you don't tussle with Ovi, you might be going with the other guy on screen there, and Tom Wilson, and that's not a fight you're going to win. I don't think any Hurricane on the ice is going to win a scrap with Tom Wilson. So we should probably stay away from that.
Yeah, and also I love this graphic. The reason why I love this graphic is look at Tom Wilson's face in that second picture there. He's just stunned. I love that pick. But yeah, these two moments, those are huge moments in that series. And obviously, I'm very biased here from a Canes perspective, Canes fans perspective. I that fight. You, what people maybe don't remember if they're not following that series closely, like Ovechkin was all over Svechnikov leading up to that fight, slashing him, hitting him with the stick, like trying to get under his skin. And I think Svechnikov was only 19 years old in that series. He was very young. If not 19, he was 18. He was a very young player heading into that series, and they're obviously trying to get under his skin. And you have the whole Ovechkin, like I'm gonna be the Russian superstar here. I don't care who you are. You might be the number 2 overall pick, but and so he did his best to get under his skin, and it worked, and drew the fight. And yeah, you've got this young kid who doesn't know how to fight against a mid-30s guy who knows how to handle himself, and the rest is history there. But look, it's not who laughs first; it's who laughs last, and that's what happened with that Brock McGinn goal.
Yep, that's true. Got the revenge in the end, and we got to see Svechnikov back on the ice that year. Because that next series, for those that don't remember, was a clean sweep of the New York Islanders. Which Christian, you were in the building with me when that sweep was complete, and still to this day, I mean, I think statistically it's not, but you'd be hard pressed to tell me that's not the loudest that building's ever been. I know, '06 Cup win was loud as hell, so that one probably is. But in recent memory, right? I'm 20 years removed from a Cup win at this point almost. That seemed like the loudest that building's ever been when they completed the sweep of the Islanders, and throughout that game, really, it was just nuts in there.
Yeah, well, I mean, so was it, yeah, we were there for game 4. That's right. So we did see, and if I'm not mistaken, was that game a shutout? I don't remember what that score was, but like I do know the Islanders didn't score very many goals in that final game 4, but the place was lit. I don't know what can compare to the Game 7 Stanley Cup final. I mean, the whole arena did not sit that entire game, and I don't
True.
even know, did we touch on this that we got to be there in person? But if not, I'm going to talk about it again. It was an incredible moment, greatest moment of my life. But yeah, so can anything come close to that? I don't know. But that place was lit. That was an incredible series. But yeah, so
Yeah.
happy. I'm happy for this upcoming matchup. I'm planning on be there Saturday. How about you?
Yes, I have tickets for Saturday and whatever the next game ends up being. What is that, Monday? I think they've said. So we'll see how that goes. But Pearl Jam in between for those that are in the Raleigh area going to that. Have fun there. Those guys that are putting together that stage and breaking it down, they're not going to be the ones having a whole lot of fun, but it'll get done. I can assure you of that. TV money comes calling,
Yeah,
right,
well,
Christian?
That's right. Dundon's gonna pay them generously to get everything set up. So I think they'll be all right.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too. So we've got a little bit more history, and obviously in the regular season, these two teams saw each other an immense amount of times over the years. So overall, right now, the Hurricanes have a 72, 98, 14, and 9 record, not a winning record. And you'll note that you won't see a winning record here for the Hurricanes against the Caps in any form or fashion. Is at home, they have a record of 38, 44, 10, and 5, and away just 34, 54, 4 and 4. So really not a great look overall. But again, I don't know, Christian, do you put any real weight into these overall records? I mean, they mean next to nothing if new coaches and new players are a part of the programs, right? I mean, maybe the past 2 or 3 seasons you could kind of grab from, or maybe since Brendamore's been coach maybe. But the Caps have had a coaching change recently, so I don't know how much weight you put into the home and away record or the overall record here in a series like this.
No, I mean, obviously, absolutely not. I don't even put this regular season. Like, I think if not mistaken, we won the season series against the Caps this season. But I don't put any weight in any of that. Like, I mean, and how much so many of those losses against the Caps were when they had Ovechkin and we had the corpse of Jeff Skinner trying to play defense on our team. So we had missed the playoffs for like 10 straight years, just getting
Yeah.
destroyed by the Capitals. So no, I mean, these are two different teams. And I just don't think that momentum carries over from the regular season. I don't think it even carries over from one series to the next. I think this is going to be a clean slate for both teams. I think we're going to see both teams start off in game one setting a tone. And especially, I think you're going to see the Capitals trying to get real physical. Tom Wilson out there throwing the body, trying to lay checks because I think the NHL believes that you can throw around a smaller team like the Hurricanes and try and be physical with them. And we'll see how the Hurricanes respond to that.
Yeah, absolutely, we will. And speaking of Tom Wilson, he's on the next graphic here as we look about what happened just this season. Like you said, you don't feel it carries over, but we do have to mention the Hurricanes did get the better of the Caps in the regular season, 2-1-1. That one loss coming in the shootout there to end the regular season series against the Caps, if you will. However, the Hurricanes did win both of those games at home, and away is where they lost the one in the in regulation, and then obviously the one in the shootout, which was a tough fought game. That was the one I think weren't we up 3-1 or 4-1 or something, and then just kind of blew it, and then they ended up taking it in the shootout.
I don't, to be honest with you, I don't remember. But I do think though this graphic is a perfect microcosm of the hurricane season in total. Like we were just not great on the road, but we were in fantastic at home. And what this series is really going to come down to is can the Hurricanes win at least one of these first two games in this series? Because if
Yeah.
they can, then I really like their chances in this first in the second round. But if they can't, that doesn't actually mean that they're out of it. Because if you remember, they didn't win a single game in Washington in that series with Justin Williams at the helm. In fact, I think that a crazy stat, they didn't have a lead for a single second in Washington in that series, but they got the goal when it counted in that overtime. And so, even if we lose the first two games, it's not over because we're best at home.
Yep.
And the old saying is a series doesn't actually start until a home team loses. But we really got to see, can the Hurricanes actually can they bring their game onto the road? They were able to do it for at least one game against the Devils. They did lose in overtime in game what was that game three, but yeah, we'll see if they can do it against the Caps. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think you're right. We could go down, and you don't want to see it, obviously, as a Canes fan, but you could go down 2-0 and not feel like all hope's lost and you're out of it. However, let's say this. If they go down 3-0, it's over, right? Like, I don't see the Hurricanes this iteration coming out and winning 4 straight games against a team like the Cap. Probably against most of anybody, but I don't know. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I think the other storyline that's going to be incredible to watch in this is going to be the goaltending.
Yes.
It's looking like Freddie's going to be healthy and ready to go in game one. Unfortunately, I think this season was the season that the Hurricanes were trying to get Kochetkov to take the reins and really take over as a number one goaltender, and he just showed that he just doesn't have what it takes, or at least this year he didn't have what it takes. Just too inconsistent. It seems like he's got the ability, but the mental side of it, he just goes on these runs where he's just letting in goals that normal NHL goaltenders can't let in. And I think he really lost the trust of Rob Brind'Amour and the coaching staff. And so Freddie has answered the bell, and he was incredible in that first round against the Devils. And that's going to be the great big question to me. is, in that first round against the Devils, we saw our stars step up. We saw our best players be our best players. We saw Aho have an incredible series. We saw Svechnikov, even though he had a really not a very good season, he turned into a different player in that first round. He was looking like a completely different player out there. We even saw some young guys like Blake and Stankoven looking motivated and really skillful out there. So the forwards, the players on the ice, even the defensemen, I'm not really that concerned about. Can our goaltending hold up? Can Freddie be the guy? Can he be the guy that carries the load? And he's going up against Logan Thompson, who has been he had a great regular season. He looked good in that first round, and this is going to be the real I think the thing that settles the series. Who's going to be the better goaltender?
Yes, I agree. And that's why I named this one goalies good with a question mark, not because they haven't been good statistically. If you see there, Freddie only allowing 6 goals, Thompson 11. The goals against average even better for Freddie at 1.59, 2.23 for Thompson, and the save percentages pretty close to one another there as well. To mention, there's only one goaltender with the goals against average better than Freddie right now. It's Eric Comrie for the Jets. And we know that they are now moving on, but I don't really know how many games he's played, right? I mean, I think that's one of those ones that if he qualifies, maybe, but he is on the list and he is listed as number 1. Thompson is number 5 on the list. So you've got 2 really good goaltenders overall in the playoffs thus far going head to head in this one. But again, the goalie's good isn't a question of the statistics so much as it is the health of these guys. And if they come back and they take one little bump when someone skates into them, maybe a little questionable physical play near the net, who knows what happens? Can they stay good as far as the health is concerned? Because I think that's going to be the biggest tell here. Sure, either team could have a scoring output of 5 or 6 goals and chase one of these guys off. I don't think we're going to see that multiple times. I think it's really going to come down to, not tweaking anything, not having some little small minor injury, re-aggravate whatever's happened here to both of them recently. And otherwise, though, I think we have a great goaltender matchup if these are the 2 guys that are going to go and be healthy for game 1, right?
Yeah, and I want to see how the Hurricanes react to the physical nature of the series.
Yeah.
I think we know that you got Tom Wilson out there. They're going to be throwing the body around, and I think that this is a different Hurricanes team. I think we've got some players out there who are resilient, who are battle tested, who have played in several playoff series, and who have experienced plenty of physical series in the past. And I think if the Caps think that they can just dirty it up and take the Canes off their game, and that's all they have to do, I think they're going to be in for a surprise because I think the Hurricanes have handled that before. I think they're going to be able to handle that again. And again, as long as they have steady goaltending behind them, I think the Hurricanes are a better team and have much better depth scoring. And I think that'll show up. I really do think the Hurricanes are going to win this series as long as Freddie is consistently good. He doesn't have to be a Vezina Trophy. He doesn't even have to be as good as what he was in the first series, I don't think. But he has to be solid. He has to be steady. He can't let in a leaky goal because that just robs momentum of the players. As long as he's just is stopping the saves, making the saves that he has to stop, then yeah, I think the Hurricanes are going to pull through with this one.
Yeah. And we'll take a look at some of the other stat leaders between these 2 teams and talk about maybe where they stand within the league as well. But Sebastian Aho comes in with 8 points, also leads the team with power play goals with 3. On the other side, Alex Ovechkin, 2 power play goals, leads the Caps coming into this one. He also leads the Caps with 4 goals overall. But Dylan Strome is the points leader with 9, up there with the top players in the playoffs so far this season. Again, the one we didn't mention here, Andrei Svechnikov, 5 goals, big part to his hat trick game against the Devils. So we'll see if he can keep up the scoring prowess against his countrymate on the other side there, Ovechkin. Again, this is kind of one I'm really looking forward to see the maturity of Svechnikov and how he handles any interactions with Ovechkin. With Ovechkin being a little bit older at this point, does he even get involved with that type of thing? I mean, we saw him lay the lumber at least one good time in that series against Montreal. I think he ended up going to the box for that. One note before we talk a little bit more about what you're seeing out of these guys, Christian, or somebody we haven't mentioned, is that both teams seem to be pretty smart without getting into the penalty box too much thus far. It doesn't seem like they got a lot of the penalty minute leaders on either side. So it'll be interesting to see if, some of the physical stuff could lead to a little bit more time in the box for either team, what that does with the power play units being so good right now for both teams.
Well, that's another interesting point too, because like I think that it is a well-known point in the NHL that the referees, for whatever reason, do not like Andrei Svechnikov. He just does not get the benefit of the doubt, and I think that's why a lot of teams try and get under his skin, because he will take sometimes bad, stupid penalties, but sometimes he will take penalties that are not actual penalties, but just the refs just do not like him. And look, yeah, that's my Hurricanes flavor coming out, but I've watched enough games. I've seen him getting calls that just make no sense, and that will be interesting. Can Svetch stay out of the box? Can the refs just leave him alone? And of course, the Capitals are smart. They know this whole thing. They're going to try and get him in the box. He's no good for the Hurricanes if he's in there. He's not able to score when he's in the box. So yeah, that'll be interesting too to see how the refereeing is in this matchup. And
Yeah.
also just one of the note I want to say, like I think a huge thing that we saw in that first series for the Hurricanes is we saw Aho coming in clutch, scoring the goals that we needed. Like that has always been the big issue with the Hurricanes is when like in the playoffs, goals are hard to come by. And you need to have guys that elevate their game and get you that big goal and that big time when you need it most. Aho has proven that he can do that. And hopefully he can do that again in this round. But even if he can't, we need other guys that can. We need Svechnikov to come through. We need, uh, I mean, we need Martinov to come through, and he has, and he does. We need some other guys. Dare I say, we need Kotkaniemi to get a big goal. Like,
Yep.
that guy, I would love for him to put one in the net because, my gosh, like he has been a disappointment to me personally. But yeah, we'll see. Can we get the big goals when it matters?
Yeah. Yeah. And for the physicalness, we know it's not really going to start from the Kane side. I mean, Svechnikov's probably our most physical player, at least in the playoffs. He's really stepped up his game and played that physical role well, but he is not an enforcer. He is not going to get into fisticuffs with, Tom Wilson's and Duhane's and those kinds of guys. I mean, he'll push back and forth. Stankoven got involved, as we saw from the last game where it got real feisty. Those things are going to happen, but we don't have a guy who's going to consistently lead the charge in that, I feel like. And so with that said, you have to have guys like Jordan Staal and Brett Burns at least assert the physical dominance when it comes into those little scrums. Like, get your star players the hell out of there. Take care of Aho, take care of Blake. Anybody else, Jarvis, those size guys, just they should not be involved in that type of stuff. If those guys are leading the way, Stankoven, if those guys are the ones that are getting physical and your big guys are staying out of it, you've got a big problem. So those guys need to step up and provide that leadership and that physicality when it's needed. It will be needed in this series. So they cannot sit idly by and watch these little guys try and get pushed around, and it's not going to work. So I don't know what's going to
Yeah,
come
and
of it.
you
Yeah.
know you know that Rod is going to be preaching to his guys, do not take dumb penalties because you don't want Ovechkin set up there in his office ready to rip off a one-timer that most goalies just can't stop. I mean, like that is the one thing that he's going to be preaching. Just do not take dumb penalties. Do not take penalties in the offensive zone.
Yeah. Yeah, that goes into predictions, and obviously we're going to go with a little bit of a homer pick here, right? Why would we not pick the Canes? I did look up something online. I can't remember exactly where I found this. The fans are picking the Hurricanes 68% last check that we saw, which kind of surprised me, honestly. Not that they went with the Canes, but that it was 68%. That was the part that was a little bit surprising to me. I'll say this, because maybe some Cat fans are tuning into this as well. I don't think anybody wins this series in less than 6 games. Even if it goes the other way, I think it's going at least 6. I don't think any team is going to be dominant enough to win this in a shocking sweep. And I don't even think a gentleman's sweep, which is 5 games for those that don't know what the hell that is. I don't think, both teams are good enough to win at least 2 games here. And that's what I'm thinking. The reason I'm leaning towards 6, Christian, one more stat I'll throw out there. Canes, 14 goals for, 10 goals allowed against the Caps specifically. Minor statistic, but it does show that the Canes can outscore the Caps. It wasn't done in every game, obviously, but they did win the season series. So I'm leaning that way a little bit, but I'm saying in 6 because I honestly don't love the shot of going back there for 7. So I'll let you explain your pick in 6 here.
Well, I mean, look, I think that both these teams are good. I think they're both pretty evenly matched in terms of their talent level. But in terms of how they're composed, I think they're very different. And I think that the Hurricanes matched up pretty well. I think that their skill, their speed, their relentless forecheck, and the fact that they're holding on to the puck all the time, that they just get their goal is to get as many shots on goal as they can. And the Capitals are not like that. They're a different kind of team. And I think that the Hurricanes are a bad matchup for the Capitals. And so that's why even I agree with you. I don't think it's going to be a quick series in either direction. I think that it's going to go a lengthier series, maybe 6, maybe 7. I pick Canes in 6 because I think that the Hurricanes are going to grab one of these 2 on the road. I think they're going to be really hard to beat at home, as they always have been in the playoffs. I think NHL fans just do not give Hurricanes fans enough credit for how loud that house gets in the playoffs. It is a hard place to play in, and I think that they win both those home games. They probably lose that game 5 back in Washington, but then win that game 6 to take it. But look, I could be wrong. This could go 7, and if it goes 7, all bets are off. We need
True.
Justin Williams back out there. We need magic to happen. We'll see.
Yeah. To note, the Canes dominated the 5-on-5 play, but the Caps were very deadly on the power play. So again, another important fact about why the Canes need to stay out of the box and play 5-on-5. I don't know, though. Sometimes we saw this during the regular season. Shorthanded sometimes felt like a better play than the Canes being on a power play. I don't know how that makes sense or why that happens, but throughout multiple times over the last 2 or 3 seasons, sometimes they seem to play better shorthanded. Maybe like they knew they had to step it up or something, but I don't know what your thoughts are on how they're playing shorthanded. I mean, Martinook just had that goal shorthanded the other week against the Devils.
Well, I mean, the we can go back. We can go way back, and the Hurricanes turnaround, like when Rod Brindamore took over the team, even when he took over that first season, they got out of the gates really slow in that season. And what really sparked that turnaround was when he put Aho and Teravainen on the penalty kill. And those guys, not only did they start killing penalties, but they started scoring shorthanded goals. And we've seen that translate. Aho is just, I think, one of the best penalty killers in the league. Not only what he can do on a defensive side of things as a forward, but also what he can do in transition with the puck. And now instead of Teravainen, we've got Jarvis out there killing penalties. He's so good with the puck. He can be a one-man magician sometimes coming in on the goalie. So yeah, the Hurricanes are very confident on the penalty kill, as they should be. The one thing that we've always been scared of is our power play, and the power play was not good down the stretch for the regular season. But it was actually it looked great. I mean, at least it looked very good in the Devils series. So that's another big question. Can our power play carry over in this series against the Caps? I'm hoping that our penalty kill can do what it takes to stop Ovi. That's a whole another thing. Can we stop Ovechkin? I put that in a whole separate category. But can we score on the power play? That's going to be another big question mark for the Canes.
Yeah, and I think you have to look at that matchup with Slavin and Burns being on the power play or the penalty kill when Ovechkin is out there, and almost where he's going to post up. It's not a shock. It's not a surprise. Do what you can do to cut those passing lanes off, because as soon as he gets it, it's going to be a one-timer from the circle, right? That's his shot. That's where he scores. It's hard to stop. I mean, hell, Aho had essentially from the other circle than where Ovi usually scores, to win it against the Devils. So it was kind of poetic justice that they're both going to move on and face each other here in this next round. But yeah, I mean, you just got to see how Slavin can play as that top pairing D with him and Burns. How do they perform against Ovechkin and his line repeatedly throughout a whole run of a series? Because it's not going to be easy. Those guys are going to get their licks. They're going to get their goals. Can they minimize it and keep it down to as small of an effort as possible? I mean, I don't even know. Like, I think I have some of the stats up here with some of these edge details from NHL. It looks like the Hurricanes are shooting the puck on goal more often than the Caps. They have more goals, but only by one, so that's not a big disparity. However, the shooting percentage favors the Caps. So I feel like in that sense, you're kind of looking at a little bit higher percentage for the Capitals, whereas a lot of the Hurricane shots kind of come in from the point, right? They set that umbrella up, they move it around, they look for the nice, pretty shot. We've seen this too many times, Christian, especially on the power play. It's like, why are you getting so cute? Throw it at the freaking net. And I think that's what's going to happen here. Get ugly, get in front of that net presence, and cause disruptions in front of Thompson so that he has a hard time managing that puck. Score some ugly goals. Is you win is more important than scoring the pretty goal. And I feel like sometimes they do that stuff and they pass up the nice, ugly shot too many times because they're looking for that pretty pass that's going to be a, Sports Center top 10 play or something.
Yeah, yeah, and keep it simple, stupid, and that's what they have to do. That's what they did. They got back to, I think, in the first round against the Devils, and Rod's very good at preaching that. And I will say the other key point is you got to have guys around the net that are willing to battle, that are willing to get hit, get cross-checked in the back, and that are willing to get those dirty, greasy goals. Marnik has always been a guy like that. Stahl, of course, is able to use his body in front of the net. But actually, a guy that we brought in has been very good in that for his limited time as a Kane is Jankowski. Jankowski, he's got a big
Yep.
frame. He's good around the net. Even Stankoven, being a little guy, is not afraid to get there around the net and get those greasy goals. So yeah, we'll see. Can we muck it up in front of Logan Thompson, create traffic, get those dirty greasy goals? Those are the goals that you have to win playoff series like this.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. And so we will end with a little bit of news on the Hurricanes side. And we had two signings here recently within the last week or so, maybe, right? We had Taylor Hall sign a 3-year, $9.5 million contract with the team. I guess that was just on Wednesday, according to Rudder Sports here. And then TSN announces the Hurricanes signing Frederick Anderson to a 1-year extension worth $2.75 million. But that's a deal, right? I mean, Christian, I'm going to let you go off on that. That's a pretty good deal for a goalie this day and age, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, that is backup goaltender money that Freddie is making. You could even argue it's actually a little less than backup goaltender money. And he's probably, unfortunately, I mean, I hate to say unfortunately, but he's probably going to be our number one goalie, or at least 1A, heading into next season. Now, I understand it. The goaltender market is not great. It's never great because when you find a good goalie, you don't let him hit free agency. So there's very rarely like high-end goalies on the free agent market, but especially this offseason, there's just none that are going to be out there that most teams are going to want to have. And so I think the Hurricanes, they know this. And Freddie, based on his comments, he's loving it in Carolina. He's loving it in Raleigh. He loves Rod Brennemer. He loves the team. He signed, I think, a very team-friendly deal there. 2.75 is a lot less than what he was making before. He knows his role. He knows that he's not going to be playing 70, 80% of the games. It's probably going to be a very even rotation with whoever he's going to be with, whether it's Kochetkov or if they find somebody else. It's going to be a very interesting offseason. We're going to have to get into that another podcast. But yeah, I think it's a great deal. Like Freddie has proven that when he is healthy, he's solid. Now, solid does not mean he's a Stanley Cup capable winning goalie. He's solid in the regular season. I still have flashbacks of him, I think, single-handedly losing us that Rangers series last year. He just
Yeah.
was not good enough in that series. But he's proven to be solid. He's proven us he can get us to the playoffs, which we've been able to do these last several years. So I'm happy with it. I think it's great for the team. I think he's going to do very well for us in terms of what we need him to do. But the real question is, can we find the next one? Can we find the guy that can take over, be the next Cam Ward for us, and take us down a playoff series? And look, maybe Freddie can do that for us this playoff series. I hope he can. But we'll just have to see. But either way, this has to give him a little boost, don't you think? Heading into this playoff series, he's got another year, another contract.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it does. I think it's a good thing. It's probably part of the mental aspect that they maybe thought about is like, let's extend this guy. He's going to play better with that extension, knowing that he's not going anywhere. I don't think this is not the type that you sign and you're like, well, I guess we'll give it to him now. Like it was purposeful to do it now, I think. And also, you're saving yourself a lot of money if he does get hot and go on a run here. So it was a smart business decision as well. Because if he pulls it out and I don't know, the Canes somehow sweep or win in 5, like you're looking at another $1 million at least right there, I think, so it was a good decision there. But I'm definitely more excited about the Taylor Hall contract. And I know you were excited when he came onto the team here, Christian. So tell us what you think about the Taylor Hall deal and what you expect to see out of him going forward.
I mean, former Hart winner, right? Like MVP. But in all seriousness, I didn't like. He seemed like a throw-in in that Mikko Rantanen deal,
Right?
and he was an afterthought for a lot of people. But actually, in hindsight, he turned out to be, I think, the biggest piece of that deal because as bright of a future as Logan Stankoven might have, and I think he does have a bright future for the Canes. Taylor Hall has fit in right away, and he has just looked like a preeminent professional, a Hurricane, willing to do whatever the team needs him to do. And he like carried like down the stretch. The Hurricanes were kind of like, just kind of playing around, just waiting for the playoffs to start. But he was all business, and in many games, he was our best player down the
Yes.
stretch and really carrying the game, carrying the load. Now in the playoffs, he was very good in the playoffs. In that first round against the Devils, I will say in that game 5, I don't know what was going on. It seemed like the puck kept jumping off his stick, but he ended up with a incredible pass to Stankoven and that last little tap in over the line got the goal. So can't argue with that, and I can't argue with this contract either. I think it's another team-friendly deal, just a little over $3 million per year. And I think he was willing to sacrifice in the money because he got a big part of this deal is he got a no movement clause. And I think there's also some interesting language in that deal where if he gets less than, I can't remember the threshold and I can't pull it up, but if he gets less than a certain number of points, then it becomes a 10-team no movement clause in that third year.
Yes.
And I think it's like a very low threshold, like 30 some points or something like that. But either way, I remember hearing in an interview, I think it was a Spit and Chicklets interview that he was having, and when he was traded, and he was talking about how he's just kind of tired of being moved around so much. He's played on a lot of different teams. I think he has a girlfriend or a fiance, and I think that they're both tired of having to move around all the time. And I think he has liked it in Raleigh so far. He's liked the area. And I think he just wants the certainty that he's going to be able to be on this team, a team that's going to be competitive over the course of that contract. He's going to be on a team that's going to be competing for the playoffs, and he's not going to have to be worried about being shipped off to some Chicago Blackhawks or, some crappy team.
Yeah, like the New Jersey Devils. But yeah, that was one of his former teams there. And so, yeah, he's definitely happy in Raleigh. I jumped in the truck from work the other day just in time to hear him get interviewed on Sirius XM radio. So shout out to those guys because they got him on and had a good interview. He was sitting in a park on a bench while his kids played and taking the interview on his cell phone. And you could just tell he was just kind of relaxed. It was a nice, easy thing for him to do. Said he was really enjoying his time in Raleigh, the area, the weather. He said couldn't get much better day. Talked about how important it was to just show up and see the fans all tailgating in the parking lots. So, those are little things that go towards, just showing a player that the people in this area care. We always hear that thing, right? But people don't want to play in Carolina. Players don't want to play in Carolina. The hell with that sentiment. That's not true at all. The right players do want to play here. but you do have to work your ass off for Rod in his system, and you have to be ready to work in the way that it's supposed to be done. And Rod's a player guy, and he used to do it. He's a gym guy. He's a gym rat. He's going to expect some of that out of his players as well. Hall is willing and able to work that hard, and it shows, right? I mean, there was a pass the other week against the Devils, cross ice pass at full speed. I don't think many people in the league could have gotten a shot off from that. It didn't go in the net, but he snapped that thing off by dropping his knee all the way to the ice just to get that off in a one-timer. Great save, by the Devils goalie at that point. But it was just a play that's like, this is the difference. This is a guy we haven't had on the team here before. So I'm very happy that Hall is here to stay long term. And great with the deal too. I mean, we still leaves it. We still have room to sign like
he's still in his 30s.
Yeah.
And sorry, I was just gonna say, like, he's still in his 30s, but he shows that he still has a lot of skill out there. Like, he's not just a vet, like, fill in a third, fourth line role. Like, he's a guy that can play in a top six role if you need him to. He still has a ton of skill. And he's also a guy that, I think this is the most important part. He's a veteran that's willing to put in the work and do what it takes to play in a system like Rod's.
Yes.
And Rod demands a lot of his players. He demands them to play on both ends of the ice. And look, we saw he came over at the same time as Mikko. Mikko didn't want to do it. Now, whether it's not he didn't like the area, his fiance didn't like the area, or he didn't want to play defense, we can talk about that in another podcast. But Taylor Hall came in, he bought in right away. He was committed. He wanted to play on a playoff team. He was willing to do what it takes for Rod. And you need guys like that, veterans who set examples and say, look, this is what it takes. This is the kind of work effort that it needs to take to be a winner. And you have younger guys like Stankoven and Jackson Blake seeing that, and that's going to be beneficial for them down. And I think that's why he's getting this contract. They saw that this guy's not just an asset for this playoff run. This guy's going to be an asset for us for years to come. So I think it's just a great deal for Carolina.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. And I think, I don't know, man, you got any more closing thoughts before we get out of here? Wrap up the first ever episode of Canes Crew?
No, man, just go Canes. This is going to be a great series against the Caps. I do have a question.
Yeah.
Which would you rather? Would you rather have the Hurricanes beat the Capitals and move on to the Eastern Conference Finals, or would you rather have Andrei Svechnikov face off with Alexander Ovechkin again and knock him out onto the ice? Even if we lose, he just knocks him out.
Oh man. I'm gonna take the first option only because I'm, unlike some other Hurricanes fans, I'm not really an Ovi hater. I saw Ovi come into the league and play a preseason game in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Caps versus Pens. It was Crosby versus Ovechkin. Everybody was there to watch Crosby, but the guy that was way more noticeable to me on the ice was Ovi. And ever since then, I'm just like, dude, I love the way that guy plays the game, and he's played that way up until this week. So like, I can't hate the guy. I was watching live when he set the record, and I can't hate him. I'll hate him when he's playing against us on the ice. But I'd rather get the victory over him than retribution for years ago. What about you? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't know, man. It would be sweet to see because it would be playing on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, be playing on ESPN, him knocking Ovechkin out, and that's something we could have in our back pocket. Because honestly, I wasn't even expecting us to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals this year anyway when we lost Shea and Pesci, and that's something else that we'll talk about in another episode. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I want to see us keep going in the playoffs, but that knockout to Ovechkin from Svechnikov would be pretty sweet.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't hate it, but I'd take the win over that. But again, this was our first ever episode. We're going to get hopefully bigger and better along the way. So we'll go ahead and say the famous words of every person who does this. Like, comment, subscribe down below, whether you loved it, you hate it, things you want to see, things you don't want to see. Maybe next time around, if you say highlights, that's going to be a tough get. Maybe we could pull something off, but those are copyrighted usually and get you taken down. So if it's anything other than those things, let us know. Christian and I will continue doing this as long as people seem into it, and hopefully we can provide a little different aspect than just the audio version of podcasts. So let us know, and hey, we'll be in Raleigh for Saturday's game, so maybe you'll see us around. So until next time, we'll see you guys later.